Hello YouTube. I haven't made a video in a while. Sorry for my lack of the videos, but I just had some other things I needed to take care of. Anyway, I would like to discuss this a number of examples of famous rock stars that I would like to discuss rock stars that almost didn't join the bands they became famous for. Okay, let's get this list started. First off is the Beatles. The Beatles were originally, as many of you all would know, the Beatles had their roots with the Quarrymen, and all the way back to late 1950s, and George Harrison, who joined the band just immediately after John Lennon and then Paul McCartney, almost did not join the bands because John Lennon rejected him because John Lennon felt that he was too young. He was only 14 at the time, and yes, George Harrison was the youngest member of the Beatles. He was the youngest of all the four Beatles. Just slightly a year younger than Paul McCartney, and 3 years younger than John Lennon and Ringo Starr. But this was before the Beatles had even formed, and the three Quarrymen, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and Ringo, and George Harrison, would all had formed the Beatles together in 1960. And then Ringo Starr joined the band 2 years later, in 1962. In addition, second is Nirvana. Prior to the release, several years before the release of Nevermind, and bassist Krist Novoselic nearly joined another grunge band, the Screaming Trees. Screaming Trees lead vocalist Mark Lanegan, at one point in the late 80s, Mark Lanegan of the Screaming Trees is considered hiring Krist Novoselic as their bassist, as the bassist of the Screaming Trees, Van Connor, had temporarily left the band. But Mark Lanegan told Krist Novoselic that he needs to stick to Nirvana, and thus with the Screaming Trees, Van Connor had returned to the band. Next up is Van Halen, David Lee Roth. When at the time Van Halen formed, the band, Eddie and Alex Van Halen, were low on gear, and in the early 1970s, before the band had really formed, David Lee Roth unsuccessfully auditioned to be the band's vocalist. This occurred several times between 1972 and 1974. 1974, after several unsuccessful auditions, David Lee Roth was finally hired as the band's lead vocalist. Next up is Lynyrd Skynyrd. Lead guitarist Alan Collins got hung in a tree by lead vocalist Ronnie Van Zant and original drummer Bob Burns, both of whom the members of Lynyrd Skynyrd did that as an attempt to trick him and asking if they would like to join the band. Next up is Slipknot. Lead guitarist Jim Root turned down Slipknot joining the band 2 times before he had indeed joined the band. And Jim Root was offered to join Slipknot once in 1996 and another time in 1997, and turned down both offers. In early 1999, upon nearing completion of the band's self-titled debut album, Jim Root had finally accepted the offer to join the band. He became the last member of the band's classic lineup to join, and he remains in the band today. Next up is Rush. In 1974, after the release of their debut studio album, Neil Peart, the band's original drummer John Rossi was fired and was unable to tour due to his health problems and diabetes. And when Neil Peart joined the band, the members, Geddy, Lee, and Alex Lifeson, thought he was a bit too nerdy and that he wasn't cool enough. However, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson were impressed by Neil Peart's drumming skills, and he was hired. Next up is AC/DC. In February 1980, lead vocalist Bon Scott died of alcohol after a severe alcohol binge. The band's auditions vocalists, most notably Noddy Holder from the band Slade, and at one time even considered Mark Storrs from the band's Crocus. Mark Storrs turned down joining AC/DC because at the time Crocus was hitting it big. In early 1980, Brian Johnson joined the band as their lead vocalist. Next up is Black Sabbath. Lead guitar. Years before the band had formed, Tony Iommi injured his fingertips working in a sheet metal factory. He's still able to play the guitar though, and And before Black Sabbath had even formed, Tony Iommi briefly joined the band Jethro Tull. But Tony Iommi's time in Jethro Tull was short-lived, and Black Sabbath was formed. Next up is the Yardbirds. In early 1965, lead guitarist Eric Clapton left the band, and as their musical style had changed from pure blues to more commercialized rock, which blended blues with psychedelic rock and other 60s type genres. Jimmy Page was offered to join the band as Eric Clapton's replacement, but he turned down the offer because he was busy with his own session work. The band recruited Jeff Beck as their lead guitarist. The following year has been 1966. They've been through multiple lineup changes. Bassist Paul Samwell Smith left the band, and Jimmy Page joined as his replacement. Well, actually, no. And it's his replacement. Then rhythm guitarist Chris Joe would switch over to bass, and Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page briefly both were known for their dueling guitar solos. Finally, at the end of 1966, Jeff Beck was fired from the band, and Jimmy Page remained the band's only guitarist. Finally is Led Zeppelin. With their ties to the Yardbirds. And at the time the bands had first formed, Jimmy Page considered recruiting Terry Reid as their lead vocalist. Jimmy Page also considered Steve Marriott, but with Terry Reid, that's really what it was. Terry Reid had turned down the offer because he wanted to focus more on his own solo career, and thus Robert Plant had joined the band. Anyway, hope you'll like my video. Please rate, comment, subscribe. Thank you, everybody.